Welcome to the very first video on this channel. We're going to start off with learning some JavaScript and then eventually move on to different languages, frameworks, etc. So today our primary focus will be on console statements, the purpose of the semicolon, comments, and the different types of variables. So to start, make sure you have Node.js installed onto your computer so you're able to follow along with me throughout this process and do the questions with me. So that's what you should do first, and then once you have that installed, then you'll be ready to code along with me. So if you have Node.js installed and you're ready, let's start coding. So first I want to talk about console statements. So a console statement is a line of JavaScript code that interacts with the console. So it's the part of your browser or Node.js environment that logs messages, errors, or other information. So it's essentially a window to see what your code is doing. And when you get more and more experienced with using JavaScript and eventually move on to front-end, back-end development, and front-end, back-end development, full-stack development, the console statements are mainly going to be used for debugging or outputting certain pieces of information. Right now, our primary focus is to use it as more of a print statement. So it's going to be the equivalent to a print statement for us right now. So let's get started with it. So to create a console.log statement, you write console.log with brackets. So if we try to run this, obviously nothing is going to happen. So what we want to do is we want to start off, we're going to focus on strings and integers today. So a string value it can be a word, a number, a value that is inside a group of parentheses. So there are three different types of parentheses that we are able to use. We can use double quotes, single quotes, or backticks. So backticks, there's a little bit more complexity with them. So we're going to stay away from those for now until a video down the line. So we're going to start off with double quotes today. So we're going to now print our first message on the console with a console.log statement. So I want to print out hello world. So I'm going to type out hello world, exclamation mark, and run. So it prints it, but there's one major thing I forgot. And I forgot to put a semicolon here. So in languages like Python, a semicolon is not required, but in JavaScript, it is very important to remember to use a semicolon because it basically is marking the end of the statement. So the semicolon tells JavaScript this statement ends right here. So JavaScript can be very forgiving though. So as you saw, if I ran it like this, it still printed the message. It can be very forgiving, so it can basically insert an imaginary semicolon if it's forgotten. But once the programs become more and more complex and you're dealing with larger programs, functions, etc., always try to remember the semicolon because without it, it can cause bugs to occur, and when you include it, it can prevent that from happening. So it's very important, good practice to always include the semicolon. So yeah, always include it. So now we're going to run, same thing occurs. So this is a string value. So we can also do this for integer values, but first I'm going to show you with the number 9. So it runs and it shows 9. So if I remove these quotes and put the number 9 right here, what do you think will happen? Well, it'll print the exact same thing, but the computer actually sees it as a different type of value. So a string value, I said, has the quotations around it. An integer value is just a straight up number. So 1, 2, 3, 4, etc., 9 are all integer values. So right now when you're looking at the debug console, they both look the exact same, their outputs. but the computer actually knows that one is an integer and one is a string. And obviously we can determine this in the code because we saw it like that, but right here, we cannot tell right now. So in a later lesson, I'm going to explain how we're gonna actually be able to tell by using the terminal, and how we're also going to be able to do it within the code. So we can switch an integer to a string or a string to an integer, but I'll explain that in a later video. So the next thing I wanted to talk about are comments. So comments are very important in JavaScript, and there's two different types. We've got single line quotations, sorry, not quotations, comments, and multi-line comments. So single line only takes this part into consideration. Multi-line will take anything between this backslash and star and this star and backslash. So for example, let's say I wanted to write a console.log statement, but I put it in the comment. Or I'll just, you know what, I'll just put the number 9. So I try to run this, nothing happens because it's within the comment. I copy this, paste, put it in here as well, nothing happens. But if I put it outside of this, so obviously there's no comment here, it's not between these two, it is not on this single line, and we try to put the console.log right here, what occurs? The number 9 is printed. So this proves that anything within the block between 5 and 10 here, or we can expand it, we can reduce it here, anything within here will become a comment and will not be put into the debug console, won't be taken into consideration for the code. And a single line, same thing, just within this line. So you might be wondering, what is the purpose of these comments? So when code becomes more and more complex, it's very important to add comments, because without comments, it becomes very difficult to really understand what you did if you come back to it later, or if someone else is revising or reading your code. So good practice, for example, for this would be to write prints number, or we'll put integer 9. So it would tell yourself if you forgot what happened there, or if you're confused about something, it would tell you exactly what the code does. And it's very useful when you start working on larger projects. So those are the two different types of comments. We got single line and multi-line, so they're extremely important to use. And I would always encourage you to use it, no matter the amount of code you're writing. It's very good practice. So the last thing I wanted to discuss today are the 3 different types of variables. So we got var, we've got let, and we've got const. So all 3 are quite different from each other, but they obviously have some similarities. So we're going to start off with var, which is the least commonly used. And for var, it's able to do a few more things than let and const. It's more flexible, but it also comes with a little bit more risk, so that's why it's not used as often. Const is typically used the most because most data doesn't need to be changed when coding. A lot of stuff stays constant, but let is definitely used significantly more than var because it is a lot less risky. So let's start with var. So we're going to do var x equals 10. So this basically means that this is the name of the variable declaration, and this is the value of the variable. So what we can do is we can print this by console.logging x. So what will this run and create? This will create the value 10 in the debug console. So with var, you can also do this. You can say var x, you can just declare the variable itself, and then assign the value to the variable below. So this will also equal 10. And var also allows you to redeclare and reassign values. So this is what I mean by redeclare. So we can say var x equals 15 now, run it, and it'll equal 15, or we can even just redeclare it or reassign it, again. So this is something that you cannot do with const. In this line here, you cannot redeclare with a let statement, which I will show in a few minutes. So another really interesting thing you can do with a var statement is you can declare the statement below. But the thing is, you cannot write the actual value below the console.log statement. So you can declare it here. You can go x equals 10, and the console.log will work. So this is something you cannot do with a let or const either. You cannot do it with either of them. So this is something that's that a var statement can only do. So it only works with the actual value assignment, but you cannot assign the value below. So that's what var does. So now we're going to move on to let. So let, let's assign it in the same way we did initially for var. We're going to run this. It equals 10. But let's do this. What we did with the var, we did equals 15. So it will equal 15 now. So you're able to reassign with let statements. But if we try to redeclare, it will not let us. It creates a syntax error. So we're not able to do that with let. We are only able to reassign, not redeclare. So let's try to do it the other way around like we did with var, but this is not going to be possible, as I will show. So we've got this here where we try to assign it below the console statement. It creates a reference error. And let's try to do the exact same thing that we did with var. And as you can see, reference error again. It does not allow us. So the let statement is only able to be declared before the console statement, not after. So now let's move on to const. So const, we'll start it the same. So the really interesting thing about const is that const is a way to declare the variables that are constant, meaning that a variable cannot be reassigned after it's initialized. So for example, we have const x equals 10. Equals 10. We cannot take away this and just keep the variable on its own. We actually need to keep the value with it, because if we try to do, for example, like this, it'll create an error, a syntax error. So we can only assign it like this for const because it stays the same throughout the entire code. So let's try to reverse it like we did here where we put it below. It does not work again, reference error, and then obviously you cannot do this because you need to have the actual value assigned to the variable. So that is how those three variables work. So I hope you enjoyed the video. We went through console statements with strings and integers. We also went through why it's important to include a semicolon. We included the different types of comments, single line and multi-line comments. And we also included the different types of variables, so var, let, and const. So this is the initial foundation of JavaScript, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please like the video and subscribe. We're going to be posting more and more JavaScript tutorials, and as time goes on, they're going to become more advanced, so I hope you work along with them. So like and subscribe. Thank you.